And we are back. So, people, welcome back to this part of the video. I'm sorry it's going to be quite a few parts, but we'll get there in the end. So, now we know what we got our main armor set on. We can worry about an aura, we can worry about a god book in a minute. We're now going to look at the other things in my inventory. So, what have I got here? I've got a dark bow. I've also got a T90 shield. I've got a... we don't need that, do we? I've got a Tok Alcohol ring. We don't need that. We got a Sign of Life. We've got an Enhanced Excalibur. We have a God Book here. And we have some Phoenix necklaces. Now, although you may feel like you're good enough at next when it comes to the ice phase, if you suddenly panic or you suddenly don't know what to do, or you know what to do but you just sometimes aren't quick enough, or you are quick enough but you just don't have enough food, whatever it is, it doesn't matter, it's an excuse to bring a Phoenix necklace, because if you do take one, it will activate when next prison's used. So it does mean you effectively, if you miss your res or anything like that, or you're just not going to make it, put your Phoenix necklace on just before she puts you in. As soon as you enter ice phase, put the Phoenix necklace on. Wait for the first prison, if that's what you're going to do, or if you take, as soon as you got your Phoenix necklace on, she will drop you and that thing will heal you up. Okay, so it can be the difference between paying 600k on a Ring of Death, or 600k on a death in Elf Death's office, right, or surviving and maybe getting yourself a bit more experience later on. And if you take more than one, you've obviously got a second chance. Okay, there's no cooldown on it. So the only reason why a Phoenix necklace wouldn't work is if I believe if you're too high HP, but if you're too high HP, then you've got nothing to worry about. Okay, and again, when we get to that part of the video, I will show you. So Phoenix necklaces are really important, and I'll show you in the inventory part of this guide like how to get them into your inventory without them taking up too much space, this, that and the other. Okay, so do remember, Phoenix necklaces are a good thing. Okay, so there's that. The other things in my inventory I've got is a Sign of Life. Now don't be afraid to use a Sign of Life, it's really useful. It can obviously mean the difference between you surviving and not getting a kill, and trust me, if you sign, it doesn't matter. I signed hundreds of times when I was learning next, honestly I did. I didn't care though, because they're cheap anyway, and they're not hard to make, and there's not really that much of a buy limit on them when you look at it like that, and the amount because considering you can only use one per hour, you're never going to run out of that. So do take them, make sure if you're going to go for next, do go for an hour or so, and allow one. No, remember one time that you can have a free death. You got a chance to fuck up effectively, but don't use that chance as a fuck up to then fuck up, because if you get into the habit of doing that, you're then relying on your sign. Trust me, when you get into duos and when you get a lot better at this, Sign of Life is rendered entirely useless at this boss, because you just won't die eventually. Okay, sometimes you have the odd mess up, but there's nothing you can do, and if you had a sign, yeah, you can argue otherwise, but when you get to the point of you can solo this boss, honestly you should have no problem with it. So let's just use a Sign of Life for now. Now, a dark bow. The reason why I've got a dark bow, and the reason why I've got the shield, is because if you're using two-handed weapon, you can switch to a dark bow, which will mean your character, A, won't run melee distance into next, which is really annoying, and B, means you can obviously either still attack or still use your defensive abilities, okay? So a dark bow if you're using two-handed, or a shield if you're using dual wield, okay, because then you've still got the main hand from your dual wield. The Enhanced Excalibur. Now, whether or not this thing is augmented, I strongly recommend you augment it and put mobile on it. It doesn't matter about the other perk. Mobile is really essential at Nex, I find. Not because you're going to be using Excalibur inside of Nex for the mobile perk, but getting back to and from Nex, it's really useful to have, because it cuts your surge, escape, and all that sort of stuff in half, and it's just generally an easier thing to have. Okay, it's also really useful for a nice heal. Now I'll explain when the best time to use, I find, to use a heal is when I'm soloing, and maybe you find another time, but again, like I said right at the start of the video, under the guide, sorry, don't be afraid to do stuff or use stuff when you feel like you need it, or when you feel it's best. Okay, don't let this influence you. This is just a guide for you to help you learn. Okay, so there's that. The other thing I've got in my inventory is a Tok Alcohol Zol. Now, if you have a Tok Alcohol Zol, it's really useful in terms of it can provide you with an emergency teleport, because if you just do this and you hit Fight Pit, you've got an emergency. Any of them, for example, will take you somewhere. It's an emergency get out. You have to obviously be quick and get it in between the tick of combat, so it can be quite difficult, but it does provide you with that emergency teleport. The other reason why I suggest using it is because it means you can obviously fast bank to here rather than teleporting via a lodestone and running to a bank, and you can get back to next quicker, providing you've got presets. Okay. Next thing I've got, the Ring of Vigor. The Ring of Vigor, if you don't know what it does, whenever you use an ultimate ability, it will save 10% adrenaline. It's incredibly useful on phases such as Ice or phases such as Zaros, where you need that extra 10% adrenaline just to not basically so you can survive, so you can get up to whenever you need to be. And then finally we have a God Book. Now, a God Book or a Scrimshaw, whichever one you prefer. I'm not going to get into the logistics of which one is better, because honestly I don't really like use them enough to be able to comment on the matter. If I do use one, it's normally a scrimshaw because I make them from ports for free. So there's that. The godbook you use, again, it's not going to really make a difference for you. Whichever one you find is best. I would imagine if you're learning Nex, you probably want to use the best one you can. You know, if you don't have one unlocked, unlock them, but don't obviously waste too much money on it, because at this point you're not going for Nex for money, you're going for the fact that you're getting your kill. We will get on to Nex for money later on. So that is the inventory and the other things I've got. I'll see you in the next part.